The talented Max Dowman. I didn't agree with him coming off the bench against Liverpool from a personal point of view, of course. Amazing him making more inroads in the first team. He's going to be a first team player if he isn't already. He's going to be a real player for Arsenal. I just think tactically in the second half, Mikel Arteta, whether it was the subs, whether it was changing things with the existing players on the pitch, as you saw with Arne Slot, there's things that we need to do. The best thing I could say about Max Dowman is a bit like Wanyeri last season. I can't say that somebody that scored against City, made his, played in the Champions League, started in the Champions League, done everything Wanyeri did. 30 plus appearances. I can't say that's his outbreak season, but I don't think it is in that. I think he ain't had his Miles Lewis Skelly kind of moment yet. Big up Miles Lewis Skelly. I can't say a 15-year-old that's traveling up and down the country and actually abroad with Arsenal, got all the Arsenal fans raving, got all of the footballing world in excitement. Him, Rio of Liverpool, he's only 14, but JJ, who's playing for the under 18s at Man United. There's a lot of good players, and we've got a generational talent, and we all expect Max Dowman to play in every competition in some capacity. He's already ticked off the Premier League. We've got Port Vale, whether it's Port Vale or whatever the League Cup has to say for us. You'd imagine he plays in that. We want to see him utilised in the Champions League. We've got a Bobby Dazzler. We all know long term he's probably going to be a 10 or an 8. Looks like he could be a real good option on that right-hand side, man. And you know what? With Saka, with Madueke, with the ability of putting Max Dowman and Ethan, it's more options for Mikel Arteta to flirt with. But yeah, smash the like button. Max Dowman, 15, is the first ever schoolboy to be named in Arsenal's Champions League phase A-list squad. Dowman could become the youngest player to feature in the competition should he play in a match before the turn of the year. Fingers, toes, and everything in between crossed. Simultaneously, Gabriel Jesus has not been named in the Champions League league phase squad. It's completely off topic, but spare a thought for record Nottingham Forest, signing Amari Hutchinson, who weren't named in the Europa League squad, and Arsenal loanees Zinchenko's not been named in their Europa League squad. Now, Gabriel Jesus, I must admit, I did think he'd be named. Clearly, when he's not expected to return anytime soon until January at the earliest, where I think you can rework the list. Obviously, we hope he's back running and available and able to continue his career sooner rather than later. But yeah, man, that just tells you that Arsenal don't think he's going to be able to be involved in any capacity, or maybe he's moved on in January if he proves his fitness. Arsenal's UEFA B list can feature under 21s players that have been at the club for 2 or more years, such as Wanyeri and Miles Lewis Skelly. The club are entitled to register an unlimited number of players on that list. So why, again, clearly there's ruling purposes around 15 and 16, and technically, obviously, our Highlanders have been at Arsenal longer than 2 years. But in an official capacity, there must be a remit, because why was Max Dowman named? And surely you don't have to name Max Dowman. I don't know, people. But our squad's been announced. Raya, Kepa, Setford, Saliba, Mosquera, White, Hincapie, Gabriel, Magalhaes, Timber, Calafiori, Odegaard, Eze, Norgard, Trossard. There's a lot of arts in it, really and truly. Should have put all the names next to each other. Madueke, Murillo, Kai Havertz, Zubabendi, Declan Rice, Max Dowman, Saka, Martinelli, and Gyökeres. And obviously, Miles Lewis Skelly, Wanyeri, probably a bunch of other kids have featured on that B list, people. So, yeah, surely there's scope to play Gabriel Jesus or name him in that regardless. So, yeah, we'll have to make of that what we can. In the final stages of Arsenal's appointment process, Andrea Berta dined with co-owner Josh Kroenke, who ultimately gave his approval on behalf of KSC. No clue why I've got a tab with that. Now, Martinelli. Now, for me, I want to put an arm around Martinelli. I've got plenty to say, and I'm sure you lot have, about his form and whether he should be sold in that. But the world is onto you. I want to put, and every player, I want to put an arm around you. For me, you've stagnated. I think you have to break down the Martinelli thing in 2 factors. In life, you need to look at the variables you can control and variables you can't. Martinelli ain't kicked on. He hasn't kicked on to the point where, and this is more of a hindsight thing, where you look at Martinelli, forget when he broke out under Emre and stuff, since he's announced himself as a proper Arsenal first team player, right? Do you remember that season he was moving mad, our first title challenge, in which, in hindsight, we tried to buy Mudryk? Maybe we knew that he weren't really the answer. But I look back in hindsight with that and say, do you know what? I don't think Martinelli's ever not been this. It's just we put him in circumstances and scenarios and played certain tactics that got the best out of him on the transition. And in the last 2, 3 years, when we've been talking about Martinelli, that's something that's been relevant, really. So I don't think we necessarily play to his strengths. The left hand side's been a mess. I feel, the left hand side, you have to kind of hold the width. It's more of a tactical thing rather than on the right where it's individual. He's never going to get a role up front under Mikel Arteta because we don't play to cater to someone like him's playing up front. And if Jesus is fit to go with Gyökeres, Kai Havertz, Trossard, Mikel Merino, it's not going to happen here. So those are the variables that I think are out of Martinelli's control. At the end of the day, in life, everything is your fault. Your decision making hasn't kicked on. Max Dowman, Wanyeri, Miles Lewis Skelly, very young players. Their decision making across 90 minutes is a lot better than yours. You play with your head down. You've not added any other aspects to your play. You are quite predictable, and regardless of what we have to say about Mikel Arteta in the final third of the pitch and getting the best out of our attackers, which is relevant, you've struggled and you've had an opportunity. I like Trossard, but more you for the last 2, 3 years where we've been clamoring about a left winger, and still this summer and probably next summer in January want a left winger. You haven't done the business. So yeah, man, I just think it's Martinelli is dark, like really and truly. You should be a squad player, you're a bench player. Fair enough, it didn't work against Liverpool, but in moments where we might need a winger to do some defensive aspects, or you come off the bench and play against tired legs and a rotationary option, that is you. That should be you. I know Eze's strongest position probably in the left winger, but come on, slap him out there. Even a fit Gabriel Jesus could be issues. Even if Saka is fit, Madueke might pull over to the left. Martinelli and Trossard was subject to speculation all summer, as you lot know. Mail Sport understands that Arsenal were open to selling Martinelli at the start of the window. However, they valued him at more than 60 million, while the interest was only reaching the 40 million mark. This deterred the club from pushing to sell him. So we think there's more market value if we can get a tune out of him. End of the day, we spent 6 million on him. He's grown up at the club. He's more than repaid that 6 million transfer fee. 40 million would have been a great bit of profit. I think I don't know who our left wing targets are, but had you have got a Leao or Rodrigo or whatever, Trossard or Martinelli probably would have been gone. Football's a funny old game because you'd imagine one of them would have been sold across the summer, and both are still at the club, really and truly. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. We've gone over the Champions League squad being selected. The game against Crystal Palace has been moved a day back to Sunday, I believe, the 26th of October from the 25th of October, which was a Saturday, owing to Crystal Palace's own European commitments. I don't believe this because we've just brought in Hincapie. We have got Calafiori. Gabriel Magalhaes has just signed, and obviously people signed a new deal, and he's only 27. And while they might not be left-sided centre halves, there's plenty of defenders that can play over there. I could see him being, this Murillo guy, being the kind of younger Magalhaes. We're always linked with him. Add fuel to the fire that Edu was linked with Murillo when he was here, and he's obviously at Nottingham Forest. Apparently, Barcelona and Arsenal are sniffing around Murillo, people. Good ball playing skills. Reminds me of a younger Magalhaes, but they're saying a 70 to 80 million euros. He's got a contract until 2029. Now, you can never rule it out with Arsenal because we do love to buy a defender or 10, but really, unless Magalhaes leaves or Calafiori leaves or Hincapie leaves or there's something significant to the back line, maybe even Saliba, I don't know. AC Milan apparently want to sign Tomiyasu, which would be good for him after he left the club as a free agent. We're all hoping for the best with you. And I do want to finally leave you lot with one thing, people. If you could give Mikel Arteta one piece of advice, what would it be? Not that we're in any position to give a professional manager anything, but what would it be? For me, I would say trust your defenders. And I would also say put the handbrake down, if I'm honest with you, like release the attackers. And I would say it's almost a double-edged sword, but stop overthinking in the final third. Now I need to see our own team's identity. Attack is also a form of defense. And it seems that we've got all the other aspects, locked down in defense or in relation to defending, time wasting, taking the sting out of games, game management, mid, low, deep blocks. But in terms of, you might have an 8 that just gets the ball and dictates the tempo. You might say, I'm throwing on some wingers, to pin their fullbacks back, doubling down a bit on the attacking front. That is a form of defending. And it feels like we don't typically look at that or utilize that or have the capacity right now to do that. I think we've got the players, but the gaffer, and I know people call Arteta a negative manager and defensive manager and all these things and all of that kind of stuff. But he showed me, going back to when Martinelli was amazing in an Arsenal shirt, you show me you can coach attacking football. You're choosing not to for whatever reason, or to kind of leverage or double down a bit on that. And you look at how much our attack cost people. What, Martinelli 6 million, Eze about 60 odd, Gyökeres 50, 60. You know, fair enough. Kai Havertz is a striker here, so let's throw that in there. 65 million on that, 50 on Madueke, 30 on Odegaard. Declan Rice is playing as an 105 million. Fair enough. Saka came for free, but that's easy, 100 million plus player. We've got the ability, we've got the ingredients. Now the chef needs to cook.